and yet it doesn't always work that way. So there's also a lot of companies that I've been working with recently that they're almost wearing a badge of honor that they've got team harmony going on. And it's perceived as this hallmark of effective leadership. However, what they're failing to recognize is that beneath the surface, there's this phenomenon going on called artificial harmony. And this is a really deceptive state, and it can lead to stagnation, and it impedes growth, innovation, and genuine collaboration within the workplace. And I think we see this illusion of team harmony happening because so many people out there don't want to engage in conflict. And when I say conflict, healthy conflict, not divisive conflict. So we know from the work of Patrick Lencioni that once you've got trust in place within an organization, the next area that we need to focus on is healthy conflict. But a lot of the leaders I've been working with recently and team members, people are just afraid of having difficult conversations with other people because they don't want to upset them. So this is why this illusion of team harmony happens. And it can be really detrimental to the organization and really hamper high performance. So here's a question for you. Have you ever wondered why your team, despite being talented and committed, still doesn't quite click? And the reason it often doesn't is because of what we call here this iceberg of performance, because there's what we see above the water level. But as we all know, there's a huge raft of things below the water level of an iceberg that impact what we see above. And this is exactly the same within our teams and within business. So we often see things like poor communication. Maybe we do see some conflict. Maybe we see some low morale or some silo mentality going on, or poor meeting discipline, the overrunning of meetings. We know that meetings can take up so much time. And these are the surface behaviors that we tend to see. And quite often when clients come to me, this is what they tend to focus on, are these surface things that we can see. But often what we forget is the stuff beneath. And this is where really the rubber hits the road and things make a real difference. And these are things like the energy of the team, the energy of the business. And we're going to be talking a lot about energy today. The expectations. What do we expect our team members to deliver? And finally, the level of engagement that we've got. Because when we don't have our energy and expectations and engagement levels aligned, then things are never going to be optimal in the business. And for those of you that know me quite well, you know that I'm really passionate about my herd of horses that I have. And sometimes I think the way that you might imagine this, if you actually saw it out in a field, it's a herd of horses all galloping in different directions. And I think sometimes that's what it feels like in business. All of our team members going off in different directions and not being a high performance team. I think there's an invisible piece that's going on in business right now. And I call this the energy for impact. And it's what we don't really talk about. And it's how each team member contributes to the success of the team and the organization. And when we're looking at, excuse me, team performance, I think at the center, we've got every leader that I've ever worked with really wants to make a lasting leadership impact. And they do this through three ways. And one is creating game-changing trust. The other is creating impactful contribution. And by the third is creating unbridled adaptability. Game-changing trust, this is like the glue that holds everything together. Impactful contribution gives us the energy, the fuel that gets everything going. And curiosity gives us this catalyst for reinvention. So these are the pillars and the main levers of the unbridled teamship roadmap that we often work with clients. So here's another question for you, and you might just want to put your answers in chat for this, but how well do you maximize the energy of your team to achieve extraordinary results? And here I've got a little scale for you. So if you think it's very low, between a 1 and a 3, we're calling that unbridled chaos. If it's between 4 to 6, that's fragmented field. If it's between 7 to 8, that's coordinated movement. And if it's 9 or 10, it's a harmonious herd. So maybe you could just let me know. And I know, obviously, Carla, you're not working in a team now, but reflect on a team maybe you've worked with in the past and just where do you think the number would be? And actually, maybe you just want to tell me, Carla, just shout in. What number do you think it might have been for you?
I've added it in. I'd say probably also think because of the hybrid working over the last few years, I'd definitely say it's very fragmented. And a lot of the projects and a lot of the work I've been doing in businesses is to create that collaboration. People are definitely going off in fact, doesn't mean it's not high energy in what they're doing, but as a team, it's not.
Yeah, the energy gets dysfunction. Everyone's got high energy, but it's all scattered all over the place. Yeah. And what about you? What about you, John?
I'd probably score it about a 6.5, I think.
Okay, cool.
Working with different people, different teams, I think on average it's probably there, although obviously I'd like it to be higher.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah. So I think often we don't really think about the energy of our team members and then how we can get it aligned to get results. So I wanted to introduce you to something that I've called the momentum equation. So how we get momentum, high performance in business is a combination of two variables, and this is energy and alignment. So energy, we've got our little battery there, and energy is the fuel. It's the vital force in a team. It's the capacity to act and innovate and deliver. But without any direction, this energy becomes scattered, just like you talked about there, Carla. It can become very reactive and it can actually lead to burnout. And I know I've got some friends that have got very high energy, but it's a little bit like a sparkler all over the place. There's no focus to it. And actually, it's quite debilitating to be around and really draining. And the alignment is all about the direction. This provides clarity, focus, and cohesion. And it channels that energy into purposeful action. But the thing is, if we've got alignment without the energy, then we get stagnation and bureaucracy and lack of momentum. So what we really need to get is the energy and alignment working together so that we can get the momentum. Because when teams are aligned and energized, people know what matters, why it matters, and how they contribute. And collaboration then becomes much more intuitive and it's not forced. And the team move in synchrony like a harmonious herd. And I love the fact that this is all about energy and the alignment, the direction. And some of you may have seen this before, the diamond model of leadership. This is a model of leadership derived from how wild horses lead. And as you can see in this model of leadership, direction and energy are key parts of that. And actually in the wild, when we watch a herd of wild horses running together, they do so in that very cohesive way. They've mastered the art of what we call entrainment, which is all of the energy flowing in the same direction at the same time. And all of the horses are spatially aware of the energy levels of everyone else around them, and they don't bump into each other. We see the same with the geese that are flying overhead. They all work together to make things happen. So they know the direction they're going and they've got the energy aligned. So a lot of times when I talk to organizations about alignment, sometimes people come back to me, oh, it's a bit fluffy and it's a bit trite, Julia. But actually, alignment is really practical. For me, it's the foundation of team flow and organizational momentum. And if we don't have this alignment, we have, as we said, individuals pulling off in different directions. So what does it look like in practice? In order to get team alignment, everyone has to have clarity on their roles, what they bring to the table, and how they complement each other. We also need to have relational trust, so people feel safe to speak and stand up. So this all relates to psychological safety. And if you haven't caught my podcast yet this week, that's actually all about psychological safety. So you can find that at Impactful Teamwork is my podcast. And that's the topic that we were talking about this week, is this real need for people to feel safe within the workplace. And the other thing that we need to have happening is this rhythmic flow so that the team move together. They're adjusting their pace as needed. And there's a herd sense of the changing terrain. all of the team know when we've got our foot to the metal just to meet a deadline and when we can slow it down. And when these elements are in place, this role clarity, relational trust, and rhythmic flow, then we get to accelerated performance. And what I love about this accelerated performance is it works from this momentum of pull rather than push energy. Quite often I find in organizations, we've got leaders just pushing people to do things rather than stepping to the front and pulling everything forward. And actually, when we think about that model that I just shared with you briefly earlier on of the diamond model of leadership, the way that the horse herd works is actually through shared leadership. And actually, they have a lead mare at the front who pulls the energy forward for the group. And actually, at the back of the horse herd, there is a stallion. And his role is actually to provide some gentle pushing of the energy. So you've got this pull-push dynamic going on. And it's that keeps the momentum going and pulling everything forward and keeping the unity and the harmony together. So what does this mean? It means that every team has got a hidden energy system. And this hidden energy system, it works just in the natural world in terms of an ecosystem. It's the energy that fuels everything. And if you think of the word corporate, it's from the word corpus, which means body, right? So we need to think of business is like a body. It's got moving parts. Everything flows and had its own energy. It's not something that's static. And therefore, it means that within a business, different people bring different types of energy for impact into the organization. So we've got some people that we'll have in our organization who will be very creative and very big picture thinking. They tend to be the innovators within the organization. But we've also got people that are great at blue sky thinking and planning and strategy and making things work. Furthermore, we've got people that are all about execution and getting things done. And finally, we've got people that are all about continual improvement and making the best of any systems and processes we have. So every single person brings a different energy into the organization. And just to be clear, we don't just bring one energy. We'll have a preference typically for one or two of these energies. And when we're working in these energies, then this is the opportunity when we're in flow, that time seems to disappear. And all of a sudden you've been working on a project for 3 or 4 hours and it feels 3 or 4 minutes. And really, that's what we want to try and get in our organizations, is get all of our team members to be into flow, because then they're way more productive. And as a result, they create more profitability for the business, but also they're more highly engaged and motivated. So let's just talk a little bit about how this energy alignment formula works, because it's composed
Julia,
of 3 different... Yeah?
Sorry to
Please.
interrupt. Can I just go back a slide?
Of course you can. Yeah.
Is there a sort of, can you square off the circle, as it were? Is there something missing in the top right corner? Because you've got blue sky thinking, actionable, and creativity. Is there anything in the top right corner?
It's going to be, that top right corner tends to be the blue sky thinking combined with creativity. So people that are very innovative tend to think outside of the box, but with a much more creative type of look, rather than the blue sky thinking tends to be a bit more actionable and practical.
Yeah, it's like a graph axis, isn't an XY axis, and it's, yeah. Thank you, sorry.
You're so welcome, no problem at all. Thank you for that. Yeah, we're just talking here about the energy alignment formula. I just wanted to share with you the 3 areas of this. This is fueled by purpose, why we exist. Everyone needs to know, in order to have high levels of energy, why we exist personally, what's our purpose, what's difference do we want to make in the world? And then importantly, how does that contribute to the purpose that the organization has and where the organization wants to go? Because then we're going to feel like we're making a contribution. People also need to understand where their energy level is and what type of energy they bring to an organization and how that works. And then finally, we also need to be clear on the priorities, what we're focusing on within the organization. And if one part of this trifecta is off, friction increases and then that flow disappears. So let me just give you an example of that. If somebody believes that their purpose is about innovating and coming up with new ideas, but the team's sole priority is execution and getting things done, then tension builds. And let me share from my own experience. I'm actually a person who's a lot more creative. I love coming up with ideas. And I was actually at one point doing a role that was very customer service driven. And it was a very kind of executionable type role. And I got really frustrated. And while it was exciting for the first few months to actually set up the systems within this customer service department because it hadn't been done, I soon got very bored and I got a lot of friction and I became quite demotivated. So it's really important that people understand what their energy is, how does that relate into the priorities of the business, and then what their purpose is and how they contribute. And therefore, this means that we need to have different people together on different teams at different points in time when we're building them, depending on what the priorities of the project are. If the project is an execution project, then you want people on the team that are more better at execution. Maybe if it's the start of a project, we want people on the project team that are much more about innovation and perhaps planning to get things going. So that gets us to performance. But one thing I do just want to highlight here is just talking a little bit about mental models and why we're not always on the same page. Because sometimes, I don't know about you, we can feel that we've shared the purpose and the priorities, what needs to happen. We think we've got the right people on the team, and things still don't quite gel. And this is because every team member has got their own mental model of the world. It's the lens that they've got, and it's shaped by their experience, excuse me, their experience, their role, their personality, and their values. And a lot of our beliefs and values actually are shaped before the age of about 7 or 8. So there's things that we kind of inherit often from our parents or our caregivers. So what that means is that people don't interpret things, the same situation, in the same way. We actually have the same situation that is interpreted in very different ways. And the way I like to think about it is that we're all going around through the world and all of us are literally wearing a different set of glasses, right? So we all see something slightly different. And we know this because if, unfortunately, you see a traffic accident and you ask people what happened and you ask 5 or 6 people what happened, everybody has seen something slightly different. And this is because we don't see things as they are, but we see them as we are. So the problem can be that the team assumes that we have a shared understanding of what's going on, but we're working on misaligned assumptions because everyone's got a different mental model. And the result then is mistrust, duplicated effort, and missed opportunities within the organization. So let's just have a look at how that plays out as we start bringing this to a close. I call this the performance alignment matrix. So when we've got high performance and high alignment, we get synergy within the team. That's the sweet spot. The team knows the direction, they trust each other, and they execute with excellence. They're actually all in flow. We just talked about this state of flow. It's what optimally we all would like to strive for. When we've got high performance and low alignment, the team is pretty scattered. Individuals are performing, but they're pulling in different directions. And the results could look good now for the short term, but it's unsustainable. And it often leads to burnout or conflict because one person wants to go one way, another person wants to go another way. So the team has this instinct for high performance, but they're just not all pulling together in the same direction, so they're scattered. Then we've got storming, which is all about low performance and high alignment. So the team's aligned with the values and the purpose of what we want to achieve in the business, but it probably lacks the skills or the execution and the systems to make things happen. Now, the great thing about this quadrant, the storming quadrant, is that with the right development, this kind of group and this team can soar and we can get them into synergy quite quickly. And then finally, we've got the quadrant where everyone is stuck. This is where we've got low performance and low alignment. People are disconnected, they're ineffective, and the team's either in survival mode or treading water. And this is when we need to do some intervention at both a cultural and a structural level. How are we going to get the alignment, first of all, within the team? And then how are we going to move their energy up so that we can get to this high performance? So one of the models that I use to help me figure out the energy for impact is called the GC index. And some of you will be familiar with this. And what it does, it makes this energy, this invisible energy, visible within the organization. And it helps us see this hidden system behind high performance. And we do this through having a shared language, because it shows how each person contributes. It shows where the energy gets stuck and why miscommunication really happens. So really important to understand the GC index is a tool that's focusing on people's impact, their energy for impact, and not their personality traits. So it's really perfect for aligning people with purpose and priorities. So that full alignment trifecta. So in summary, skills and tools don't create great teams, alignment does. You can't manage what you can't see, and most of your team's energy is hidden. Different mental models equal different realities, and until you decode them, you're always going to stay misaligned. And I believe the GC index helps you understand your team's true energy and impact that it makes within the organization. And just like in nature, great teams can't be rushed or coerced. They need space, they need direction, they need trust. And for me, alignment isn't a luxury, it is the undercurrent of every high-impact, high-performing team. So my invitation would be, so that next time collaboration feels like a slog, don't just push harder, pause, reflect, realign, and then start again. Because even the most exceptional individuals can only win together. So if you're interested in learning some more about this, we've just had a quick probably a couple of minutes over, 24 minutes talking about this. We are running a free workshop to decode the hidden energy system in your business and unleash the game-changing potential. That's the QR code to get there. It's going to be on the 3rd of July, and it's a 4-hour session from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's a very interactive hands-on workshop, so we are going to be actually going into breakout sessions and working on different topics to see how you can help start applying energy for impact to your business. And Fred, if you wouldn't mind just putting in the chat the link for everybody. Or also, you're also welcome to take the Turbocharge Your Team assessment at Business Horsepower /quiz. Please do stay connected. Listen to us on the podcast, Impactful, which is at businesshorsepower.com /podcast, and follow us on LinkedIn. So I'm just going to stop sharing now, come back into the room, and be welcome to answer any questions anyone's got.